thank you for a very interesting presentation. I think I'll follow a bit from Henrik's comments. So I was thinking the link from the sustainability problem and the procurement as a leverage point, which I agree, and then focus on procurement tool. Because I'm thinking, so kind of like what is, or do you like an analysis of the hindrances or obstacles for either ENGOs or multinationals to do sustainable procurement? You know, what are the main obstacles for them? So like, because I guess I have, my thought is that the procurement tool, information knowledge, maybe isn't the biggest challenge. I mean, it could still be valued to look at. But I was most thinking like also like Henrik said, like why do Unilever focus on it, and you were into it from a TED talk, you know? So like a business case for either the NGOs or multinational, you know, what's in it for them? Yeah, that was just some thoughts.
Just a quick note in reference to what Henrik was talking about population growth. There's a Swede named Hans Rosling who talks about population growth and the potential for, he actually thinks that we'll probably max out at about 10 billion people, but you might want to check out just some of his, he's got a TED talk at least, so he's got a couple that he talks about, but that might just be something also to check into and related to that, that discussion about how many people do we actually need to feed. Not to say going too deeply, but just something else to kind of feed into that.
Talking about contacts, I'd be happy to have a brainstorming session with you guys if you want experience both with government, private sector, MNCs, different countries. And so there's like different ways to think of, okay, how do I get in there? How do I find out who is who? And like talk to somebody who might be not the person you're trying to get to, but the person who can get you to somebody who can get you to somebody. And just one thing that came off the top of my head, for example, is a lot of these companies are, they have greening initiatives, and with the greening initiatives, they have people from lots of different departments, and they try to get people high up involved as well as people more on the ground. So they can be your internal champions who can get you to the right people in procurement, for example. So that's something to think about. And then also there are lots of things like procurement conferences where people then, you'll have a lot of people in one place. And maybe you go to them, or maybe you have somebody who's your champion there to kind of network. So different things like that. And also, I don't see Hila here today, but you know she used to work with Unilever, right? So, and with that also the big four consulting companies, they will be also access entry points into different companies too. If you know that I've worked at Deloitte, Higgins worked at McKinsey, we got different people in different ones, so again.
Exactly the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I've told you already, like I can probably get you in contact with the procurement officers, some probably, I don't know, at least one procurement officer at WFP. And something that might be worth looking into, I mean, I have a strategy report that I made for Cargill that's like rubbish probably, but I mean, they did do some, I mean, they consulted Gisette Charan, who was the previous CEO of the World Food Programme, and they were sort of, I mean, it was greenwashing, but still, they have a report saying that they consulted all these people in sustainability, both social and environmental, and yeah, there's all pretty pictures with their statements underneath and like stuff like that. So it might be worth looking into that as well. And yeah, in general, like I know, I mean, yeah, the people I put you in contact with at WFP are not going to tell you this stuff, but if you want to have a kind of secret meeting, then I'm more than happy to give you lots of very bad things about procurement at the bursary program
Definitely.
inside the talk.
Thank you.
I probably have a couple contacts for you, definitely with Oxfam. Just Kaylee danced with the VP of policy this last weekend.
Really?
It's not a problem. And possibly with Walmart, although Rui probably has a more direct route to that. Is Kellogg one of the
Sure.
interests?
Yeah.
It wasn't on your list, so.
That's fine.
Just some-
Look it up.
Who owns Kellogg? Does Kellogg own Kellogg?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, Michigan.
Strange thing in this world.
Yeah. Just if that's of interest, we can see if we can pull on that.
Yeah.
I wondered about, you talked about best practices. And I often feel like best practices don't necessarily exist within the context that we're looking into. And so what we find is what's best so far in that industry.
Right.
What can you, like, who do we know in the world, everybody, who already is just a rock star at procurement? What major companies have already figured it out? Like, is it Interface? Is it, who's figured it out? And what can we learn from their procurement policy to inform what you're doing here? Like, is there just a thought about in the looking for tools and looking for, it's just because if you find that these companies don't have really clean procurement policies and you then need to create something, who's already cracked that nut for their industry that you can use as a bit of a template or just to inform along with the FSSD, because I mean, like, Interface probably already has the framework built into their procurement policy. It's just a thought. And Scandic is a tiny little example, but 2 years ago there was a procurement thesis on the Scandic's procurement policy. And they came up with a guidebook for the Scandic chain. And I don't know if there's anything in there helpful, but we can connect you with those.
How related do you think that the fields or industries need to be, or do you think they need to be related at all, just,
I
so
think
for validity?
Yeah, well, I think you would have to kind of sort that out. It's more just scanning the field to see what's there. It's not going to be an exact match, but there might be things that you wouldn't have noticed if you're only looking at what exists in this field.
Right.
Especially if there isn't anything consistent. You're saying, at least it sounds like,
Yeah.
you thought there would be some solid stuff, and that might not be the case,
Yeah.
is what I think I heard you
Yeah.
say. So it might just give you more information to fill in what sounds to be a
Big gap.
huge gap, lots of holes, so that you don't have to kill yourself trying to invent something brand new.
Right. That's a good idea.
Learn from what's already good.
I can also mention that Andre Heinz, the heir of the Heinz kitchen, he used to work at the United States. I think, Kalle, do you have his contacts?
Yeah, I think that sure, I could turn to Andre, the ketchup prince, and ask him how to approach Heinz in an appropriate way. They should learn from this, by the way. So that would be very helpful, actually.
Yeah,
So if I get that request, I would just transfer the
Okay.
mail to Andre.
that would be great. Yeah, one of the things that Tamara suggested is that we just find like a few key people and just ask for like 10 minutes of their time, just to kind of help us filter
Sure.
through the information and figure out like who do we need to talk to right away, like instead of so we don't waste our time. So
They
Sounds
spend
like he
so
could
much
be one of
money from
those
Heinz
people.
Foundation on research and sustainability, and it wouldn't surprise me if they get a shock and bad conscience when they get this question about how they deal with their own business. So they are bound to react.
okay, great.
Nice job, guys. Thanks very
Thank
much.
you, everyone.